Syntax77 here, and today we're going to be talking all about sleeping pads, or at least the ones that I have in my collection. I'm not so fortunate as to live in a sporting goods warehouse, so I won't be able to show you a whole world variety of these things, but hopefully for those of you newer to sleeping pads, get a decent overview in this video, and for those of you already a little more experienced, maybe you'll get something out of it too. I do have one pad back here that's a little more unique that could be of interest to you, especially if you're into lightweight or you're looking for a secondary pad, but we'll get to that in a minute. The other two I have are a little more common, one even more so than the other probably. They're both made by Therm-A-Rest. Then we also have a scale, of course. We will weigh these as we go and just kind of weigh out the pros and cons of these different systems. So first things first, let's see how to start here. We'll get to that later. I'll probably start with, this is probably the most common one right here. This is actually my wife's. Let's get the other ones out of the way and focus on this. This here is the Therm-A-Rest Women's Prolite Plus. Okay? The most common one is actually probably just called the Prolite. The Plus version is a 4-season. It's a little bit heavier, but it is warmer, and she goes ahead and carries it during the summer as well. Just helps her sleep more comfortably. So this is around like 110 bucks. The standard one, the 3-season one, is like 100 bucks. That's the one that most people have. But either way, a Therm-A-Rest, pretty common sleeping pad. It self-inflates, or so they say. Let's see, let's get this one going here. Well, actually first, let me show you how it rolls up before I go ahead and inflate it. Okay, so fold it in half, and then you just roll it like you would a sleeping pad. I mean a sleeping bag or something. So let's do that. And I'll show you how it packs down. And there it is, right there. So you can see kind of relative size there. What she usually does, I'm not gonna get a stuff sack for this thing. This is just a 2.5 gallon jumbo Ziploc bag. This isn't necessary. And the real purpose of this, she just does this to kind of keep it contained. And there you go, you can see you can kind of really wedge it down in the bottom there. You got some extra space, but she just likes to do that to keep it, you don't even have to seal it. It's not about keeping it dry, although that's nice too, but it just kind of keeps it bundled up. And she'll store this right in the middle of her pack, which brings up an interesting subject. This is going to be on the inside of your pack, most likely, so you will be eating up pack space. Let's take it back out. Okay. There it is again. So we'll eat up some pack space inside your pack, and that's something that is a little different with this guy back here. But we'll get into that. So let's inflate this, see what it looks like. Might have to do some time lapse, but this should self-inflate. Took a little bit. It's been a while since it's been out, but there it is. Nice. Feels nice. You can see a close-up of it there. It's not really that interesting, but it does have, there's that air nozzle. You just seal that shut, and you're good to go. Now, the women's version is rated a little higher when it comes to the R value, something called R value. I'm not going to go too deep into that subject, but something to be aware of for those of you who are new to it and looking to buy a sleeping pad. R value is something that has to do with, it's a measure of the insulating capability of a substance. It's used for a lot of different things, not just for sleeping pads, but nonetheless, higher the R value, the higher the insulation level is. That's basically the gist of it. Most of your sleeping pads are going to run around 2.5. Let's just call it an average. You can call me out in the comment section if you want. You can nitpick and all that, but around 2.5. Like a standard, not plus, but a regular Prolite men's is going to be around 2.5. I think it's actually, if you really want to know, 2.6. Now, women sleep colder. This is something you should be aware of too. Women have a tendency to sleep colder, and that's why you're going to see the women's versions. The women version of a sleeping pad is not just different dimensions, they're typically going to be about 1 R value higher. So for this one in the regular version, the 3-season version, I honestly forget, but it's probably around 3.5. It's about a point higher than the men's. This is, like I said, the 4-season version, and it's actually clocking in at 4.6, an R value of 4.6. So that's pretty high up there. But that's what works for her. She keeps it inside the pack, and it's pretty nice. A lot of people have these, and that's great. A lot of people have the next thing too, because if you're like me, you're like $100. I know people are going to start calling me cheap, but when I first started backpacking, I said I don't even know what I like yet. I'm not going to drop that much coin, and I don't have one here to show you, but you can even go cheaper than this. It's just a circular roll of real thin foam you can get for like 15 bucks. A lot of people do that and they're perfectly happy with it. So, look into that if you're just trying to figure out if you're into backpacking or not. That's a small investment. But in my case, I ended up even going one step above that. I got this. This is around $40. This is the made by Therm-A-Rest, same company, but this is the Z-Lite. It's called the Z-Lite. They also have it out there now with like a heat reflective color instead of this yellow, called the Z-Lite Soul. But either way, this runs around similar R value as our inflatable purple guy back there in men's. I'm talking in men's now. About similar R value around. This is, let's double check the notes. 2.6, R value of 2.6 on this. You see it's got that eggshell kind of look to it. There you go. Which helps with comfort and insulating, right? Now, the interesting thing about this, it's actually, all right, first off, it is lighter than the other pads by a little bit. That's 1.5 pounds. Again, it has a higher R value. That's 1.5 pounds. I think the regular men's version is like a sliver over 1 pound for the 3-season version, which is more comparable to this. This, let's just go ahead and weigh it. Should be around 14 ounces. 13 ounces. Probably because I keep beating it up, which brings up another point. These go on the outside of your pack, and they do have it, this is taking some beatings, so it's holding up. But you can see it's going to get beaten up over time. Honestly, that's over some pretty decent use that I've given it, so you know what? I'm not worried about that. I'm sure this thing's going to last a while, but since it's on the outside of your pack, it will get beaten up a bit. The upside of that is it's absolutely impossible to puncture this. You certainly could puncture this, although it's pretty resilient. It's a nice material on these, but don't have to worry about puncturing with this. You also don't have to worry about taking up space inside your pack. I don't know if many of you care about that or not. But that wasn't why I bought it, but once I got it and started using it, I came to really enjoy the fact that all my pack space was free. I just strapped this to the outside. Yeah, it's a little bulky, but you get used to it. You can strap it straight up and down. You can strap it straight up and down to the outside of your pack. Cha-ching! Right on the outside like that. I always strapped it across the bottom here. I'll show you real quick. Cinch that down. Now the pack is empty, so this will probably be a bad example. But there it is on the outside, if you can see that. Now you can see I kind of got used to this and kind of grew fond of it. It acts like a little kickstand. So I kind of like that. You got free space on the inside, you got a kickstand for your backpack, so when you're stopping for those snack breaks, your backpack's not falling all over the place. Downside of this system is it makes it a little wide, so going through bushwhacking and tight trails and stuff, like I said, you're going to beat up. That's why my corners are beat up, because I carried it like this. But, I got used to it. I liked it, and I actually ended up preferring this style over that. So in this case, I'm glad I spent the 40 instead of the 100. But let's move on to the third one that I got. Most recently, this is actually in my hammock video when I went to New York. But there it is. It's upside down, sorry. The Klymit Inertia X-Frame. For those of you who have seen this in action, you've probably seen me give you the gist of this before, but let's just take a quick look at it. First off, let's weigh this guy too. Let's get all the weights out of the way. Should be around 9 ounces. Let's find out. 8 3/4. Okay, so 8 3/4. That does not include, we'll get to these items later, but that doesn't include, it comes with a little repair kit. It's 1/4 of an ounce. Comes with that. We'll see why we want that in a minute, but some spare material and some adhesive. And we'll get to this in a minute too, but it comes with a pump. I don't carry this, but if you did, for fine tuning adjustments, 3/4 of an ounce. And since we're on weights, let's find out. I never did tell you how much this thing actually weighs, so let's pack it up and weigh it. Roll it up. Here, we'll play this in, we'll play it in fast motion for you. Boom, there you go. So it took a couple minutes, not the end of the world. It's not like breaking down a sleeping bag and trying to slam that into a stuff sack early in the morning before coffee. Don't try that, by the way. Drink the coffee first. But there it is, broken down. Clocking in at 1 pound, 8 ounces. Which brings up one final point. Breakdown on this, forgot to mention. That was it right there. That's the breakdown on that. Couple seconds. Another advantage in my opinion. Don't hate me. I like the other one too. My wife loves it. I know somebody's going to kill me in the comments, but I do like that Z-Lite. All right, back to the Klymit that I was teasing you with, right? All right, so take this out of the bag. Little stuff sack it comes with. That's all there is to it. Remember, 8 3/4 ounce. Not just weight that's a nice advantage of this, but the space. This is like carrying a bottle of soda. Really compact, so when you go into an ultralight kind of setup where you got an even smaller bag than that blue one I showed you earlier, and you can't really strap stuff all over it because your bag's kind of small. Pop this right in one of the pouches and you're good to go. All right, enough yapping. Just spread it out like that. Okay. And it looks like this. See all those holes in there? I know, you're like, what in the world is going on with this thing? It's body mapped. I'll get into that in a second. Let's blow it up first. It should just take a couple breaths through this here valve. The pump, okay, the pump hooks into this. You don't use this to pump the whole thing and be here all day. You just use this for fine tuning if you wish. I don't find it necessary. So let's blow it up. Three breaths. Took about 3 breaths. Seal it shut. And there you have it. Now, the way it's supposed to work is, it's ideally set up for a person who's, from what they say, 6 foot tall, roughly. I've seen people on the internet say that it doesn't fit their body type, so, I mean, look into that. Speaking of the internet, you're going to see this is relatively new, not only a new product, but a pretty new design. A lot of skepticism on the internet about this. I will tell you, as somebody who's used it, I really like it a lot. And when you read the reviews of people who really use these things, for the most part, they like it, unless they say it just doesn't fit their body right. But for the most part, they like it. If you read the reviews of the people who own one of those more typical Therm-A-Rests who just write about this themselves, a lot of them hate it. They think it's ridiculous. They just can't grasp the idea that this could even work. I decided to give it a chance, and I'm glad I did. So what it's supposed to do is it matches your body at these certain pressure points. You know, the hips, head, shoulders, feet, stuff like that. And then it has the gaps in here. Saves you weight. Obviously, that's how you get the weight all the way down to a hair over 8 ounces. It also has the advantage of the loft from your sleeping bag comes up in between those areas. When you lay on down or synthetic, it compresses it. When it compresses, you lose your insulating capability. Or I should say efficiency. That's the whole point of the fluffy stuff, is to get air trapped in there and keep you warm. It's all about air, really. So when you have these holes here, it's not compressed, and you supposedly, and I think it works from my usage, get some more warmth there. I used it in a hammock, and it was really nice because in a hammock, that bottom insulation is notorious. And I actually used this with just a inside of a fleece liner, which had no loft anyway. And I took it down to 50 degrees, easily 50 degrees, and I had no problem. Quick fact, speaking of R values and the Klymit, what's the R value of the Klymit X-Frame? They don't officially list one. Some people guess it might be a 1. It's really negligible. This actually, technically, is not about the R value of the pad, if you're using it by yourself, but amplifying or increasing the warmth of your sleeping bag because of that whole lofting thing. So there's not really an official R value available on this. Now that brings up another good point. You're probably going, wait, inside my sleeping bag? Yeah, kind of something to get used to and a little weird, another thing that freaks people out, but this kind of sleeping pad goes in your bag, nothing underneath of you. So that can take some getting used to, and you know, for it to work best, yes, you're not supposed to sleep on your side. So if you're a back sleeper, it's good. If you're a side sleeper, not so much. I like side sleeping too. I found I'm able to sleep on my back in this. I also have slept on my side in it. The insulation may take a hit when you do that, but I've slept on my side in it, and it's still comfortable. It's just not you know, mapping or the same way, but I've used it on my side and on my back. Not the end of the world. And then you see, if I really wanted to get it firmer, I could plug in this here, click, and I can really fine tune the firmness, and a little release valve I can fine tune releasing. Now, another advantage of this is, even if you don't want this as your primary sleeping pad, as your secondary sleeping pad, say in the winter, a lot of people carry 2 sleeping pads, so they might take my Z-Lite and double it up with the Therm-A-Rest Prolite that I already showed you. But this is nice because even if you don't want to get into all the craziness of having it in your bag, they actually suggest for the dual pad use to not do the body map thing, but just put this on the ground first. This will be in the winter when it's real cold, obviously. And your second one on top. This gives your primary sleep pad about an extra 1.5 inches. At least, yeah, 1.5 inches off the ground. And then you can sleep on your primary pad just as you always would in normal comfort, but you got extra space between you and the ground. And it's only going to cost you an extra 8 ounces of weight. Speaking of cost, this guy here, between $70 and $90. They have a shorter version as well that I think costs about the same. It only weighs 6 ounces, but it's torso only, so you lose the legs. But for around 70 bucks, you can get that set up there and use it as your primary for ultralight or a lightweight way to get a dual pad in the winter. I've also experimented with putting my primary pad on the ground and then still sleeping this in the bag for extra loft. So really the choice is yours. Alright, so let's break this guy down as well. Not rocket science either. Again, nothing's going to be fast as this Z-Lite for get up and go, but really just pop the top off there. Oops, go from the other direction. That would make more sense. And just kind of scrunch it up and wring it out. That's it. Now you just got to roll it up. Fold it in half. Fold it in quarters. Give it a roll. And now it's all nice and packed up. One other thing to mention, if you're a little freaked out by the body mapping and you don't mind a couple extra ounces, the most similar product to this that I was actually looking at first is made by Therm-A-Rest. Again, it's called the Neo Air. It has an R value of 4 and it weighs 12 ounces. So 12 point something maybe. I don't know. For another 3 or 4 ounces, you could have kind of like this without the holes in it. And that is made by Therm-A-Rest. It's called the Neo Air X Lite, not to be confused with the Klymit X Frame. So there's all 3 of the pads. That pretty much sums it up. That's my 3 pads. There's 3 different kind of pads for you to check out. Some a little more extreme than others, but these are just kind of your 3 versions of different price, weight, and insulating options. And again, you can pair 2 of them up if you're in a colder climate. Feel free to post, as usual, in the comment section below. Throw your 2 cents in there. What pads or combinations of pads do you like? And until next time, I'm Syntax77. Have fun out there.